Hello everyone. In this video I'd like to demonstrate a very useful feature for the FactoryTalk View Studio, that is the offline tag browsing. So this feature is very useful if you try to catch up your lab outside of the lab room. So if you don't have access to Beaten 24 but you can go to Beaten 33 and use the software to design your lab. And on the other video, I believe I already talked about the emulator. So that's one of the ways to design your ladder logic and HMI application. Then you can test that using the emulator. But anyway, that requires quite a work to set up the emulator, and sometimes the software has problems. Then you may think, oh, it's too hard for me to do that. So the other alternative is to use the feature to browse the tag offline. So in this method, you can finish your HMI design together with your PLC ladder logic without testing. Right, so you can save everything, design everything, and after you have the file, when you get back to Beaten 24 in the lab, you can download to the PLC controller and test it right away. So that will save you time. So in this video, I will demonstrate this process. So let's start it. First, you can see I have the RS Logic 5000. You can see here underneath the communication path, I don't have anything set up, right? So it's offline. So I can start to design my ladder logic. You can see right now I have one simple run design, PB1, energize PL1. So that's the two tags we create, and then we can just save that on the computer. Right. You need to know where is that path. Where do you save to? Either save on your USB or on the C drive. Once you finish this, without downloading to any PLC or emulator, we can start the FactoryTalk View Studio. So you know how to open this window, right? Double click the communication setup. So once you have this window open, that's the device shortcut you create in your lab, right? So actually you can call any name, but once you decide to use, for example, my PLC as the shortcut, that's the name you will use all the time, right? You don't need to add anything. You keep using the same name, point to the PLC, right? So that's what we learned in the Beaten 24. But now, if you look downward over here, there's another section out here. It's called Offline Tag File. So that's the feature I'm going to demonstrate now. Same thing, we need to highlight this name, my PLC, then start to browse. So I'm trying to browse this file, right? So this is the file I create called lab5 demo, right? So that's here, that's the file, right? So you need to browse and find the file, then double click this file name. Then you can see here, that's the path, right? So that directly point to the ACD file, which is this one. So the rest of the step is the same. We need to apply because we want to point this name to this file. Now we need apply, confirm, click yes, then copy from design to runtime, confirm yes. So that's exactly the same as you point to the PLC. The only difference is now this name, my PLC, point to this file. This is offline file. So I click OK, close the window. Okay, so now I have my display open. So that's the main window. I start to added the push button. Right, so you can see I can add this push button, and after I add push button, I can double click, open the property. I want to normally open momentary push button, and then on the state 0, I want to change the color. For example, I want to use the red color as the back color. And the caption, I can type in PB1 release. If you want, we can even set up the size. Right, so you can look at that when you apply. So that's what you're gonna see when it's running. So on state 1, we'll just keep the back color as the default, but we just need to change the caption to pressed. And you apply, so that's the state you set up for the push button. So you can see I can do pretty much everything on the appearance. So the color caption, I can set it up. Then most important, once we have the offline tag set it up, I can even make the tag connection. So now I click this one. So that's the name we create by PLC. If you refresh and open that folder, so now this is something new. Before we only have the online folder. Now we have a second folder called offline, because we create the shortcut point to the file. So once we open this file and then point to the program, we see the PB1. So that's the one we create here, right? So double click PB1. So we set up this push button point to this, and don't forget on the indicator we want to set up the same tag. So PB1, that's done. We can click OK. So now if we want to create the pilot light for PL1, we need to use a multi-state indicator. So that's the object we need to use. Once we finish, double click, set up the properties. So for example, I want a circle shape, right? So the state is only 2, either on or off. So I need to change that, apply. So I can see that the pilot light change the shape. Same thing, we need to set up the state. State 0 is off, right? So you can change it. Yeah, let's just change the color. Change the color to the gray, and PL1 as caption. If you want, you can give more information off, right? So it's totally up to you. And let's apply. We can make the font even bigger if you want. Yeah. So don't forget, this is only for state 0, which is the off state. Then if you click the state 1, so that's the value corresponds when PL1 changes to 1. So we want to use the red to represent on, and it's very good to give the indication on the caption, right? So that's what we want to do now. So set up here, if you apply, and same as PB1, we can go into connections and offline, browse the tag, set up the PL1, then click OK. Now don't forget to save. So now as you can see, with offline, I don't have PLC, I don't have an emulator. I design my logic and also design the HMI application. So now I can save both files, then bring into B1024 to download to the PLC to test it. Right? So that's something you might ask. Okay, when I browse the tag, I browse from the offline. Right? Remember the offline folder that we talked about. Is it going to be a problem when we go back to the PLC? The answer is no. You don't need to worry about, because we make a connection from the offline. But once we have the online device available, that will overwrite this offline connection. So you will get the real tag value from the PLC instead of the offline file. To demonstrate that, because I don't have a real PLC connect to my laptop, but I do have my emulator. So let's bring it up. So this time I will download my RSLogic 5000 into the emulator. So you can see right now my controller emulator is on slot 3. So I just need to change correspond to that to slot 3. So any slot will do. To change to 3, also I need to browse the communication. And before I used to have slot 8, now I have slot 3. So I download. This will be the similar situation when you go back to B1024. Right? You download to the station PLC. So once you have online communication, we will test the HMI. You can see I don't need to change anything. I just need to run. Just need to test on that. Of course, you need to make sure the online communication set up on the HMI as well. Okay, my laptop just crashed. Okay, so now we continue. Once we have the HMI communication set up, remember before we have my PLC point to the offline file. This time I want to point to the emulator. And I should be able to point to slot 3. Yeah, you can see I just need to right click, start browsing, right? Update on that. So now I have my slot 3. So that's my emulator. In your case, that'll be your PLC, right? So in B1024. So now my PLC name point to emulator. Same thing, apply, confirm. Copy from design to runtime, confirm, then click OK. Alright, so I'd like to see the emulator. So we have the PLC download to slot 3, the PLC controller, the emulator. So we have the HMI finished design. We design everything offline. So now once we switch to online mode, I can test my display right away. So test my display right here. It will probably need some time. Communicate. Yeah. So you can see right now PB1 release. That's right. Normally open push button. PL1 is off. If I press it, then you can see, yeah, voila. That's a offline design, right? So we didn't make any change while we are online. We did everything offline. Now we just need to switch to online running mode. So we have everything, right? So you can see the push button work very well according to the logic. Then PL1 turn on, and that responds on here, right? Everything is good. Okay, so that's it. Thank you.